Hi, you're on a rock floating through space. Pretty cool, huh? Now imagine if it was Minecraft roleplay. Progeny is a Minecraft roleplay event unlike any I've ever seen, and I've seen a lot. Each event is built on the last, with a 20-year time skip in between. You'll see kingdoms rise and fall, you'll watch your friends live and die, you'll see families be born and ended. So come along with me as I explain to you the entire story of Progeny so far, I guess. Each time a Progeny event happens is a generation. Generation 1, shortened to G1, started when settlers from the Kingdom of Avarius shipwrecked in an unknown land. The fog that no sailor had ever returned from had parted, letting them through but only briefly as it closed behind them mid-journey. Now, waking up on forgotten shores, the first progenitors arose. A progenitor is what I'm calling the founder of a nation. One of the first was Riley A. Murphy with Freedom's Edge. They're located here, to the west of the volcano. They're like a small anarchist community built around worship of nature, and they have these mystical trees that shelter them. At the same time, Matthias Venthyr was rounding up like-minded individuals to create the Duchy of Erin. Eridoth Havlath and Coda Marks were the first of the nation's founders, but many more soon followed. On a different shore, one Mr. Kenneth Carrasco founded Longfork. If you can imagine a nation of rowdy fishermen and sailors whose leaders prefer to take meetings around a table in a tavern than a castle, you've got the spitting image of Longfork at the time. Directly to the east, scholars form a community called the Circle of Birch, commonly shortened to COB. Their first leader, Nova Al-Sortison, promised all citizens tranquility and the ability to pursue academics and knowledge. Very close to Cobb, a secluded town called Spabush was founded. This place is very small town culture. They love being out of the way of the other nations and living in their own time. Next to last in the founding order, Soulflame was made, a very small, kind of like farming community on the northern cliffs. They were kind to pretty much every nation except their nearest neighbor, Wave, an expansionist nation ruled by King Scarlet. Early into G1, tensions rose dramatically as Wave began creeping like a gnarled root sprouting from the dark forest, claiming the crystal fields for its den. Soulflame saw these expansions for what they were. They publicly rebuked the actions taken by Scarlet. And then, in a surprise to everyone, shortly after these hostilities, Soulflame merged into Wave, creating the new Empire of Wave. This was a nation unlike any other in power at the time, and their ideology of expansionism was not lost on the other nations. Setting aside the empires and tensions that they bring, let's take a look at the map so far. You might notice how dotted around the map there's these small structures. On this peninsula, only stone remains of the ancient civilizations that used to inhabit it. Settlers have discovered these ruins dotted with text that they haven't deciphered quite yet. Most notably, Longfork have discovered a gigantic stone obelisk they call the Tower. Back to Wave. The first of what will become a many anonymous letters reached Scarlet. This letter depicts Longfork and Cobb as up to very nefarious deeds. The following day, a meeting between the leaders of Erin and Wave is brokered, but then interrupted when Etienne Planchette of Erin, Wave, curious, he brought news of a secret meeting between Wave and other nations happening at the same time. This secret meeting wasn't as nefarious as it was depicted. It was a talk about anonymous letters that were being sent to all of the nation leads, not just Scarlet, as well as to share notes on ruins research and, compliment or insult different nations, just a catty little tea party. Longfork left halfway through, citing too much talking. Remember this guy from the meeting between Erin and Wave? Yeah, he's put on trial in Wave for interrupting the meeting to whistleblow. Tensions rise as all previous prisoners have not been smiled upon by the king, but Etienne Planchette is said to have brought a tear to Scarlet's eye, pleading for his innocence, and as a surprise to everyone, he gets the verdict. During this trial, another meeting was being held to talk about the anonymous letters. Erin and Cobb theorized that Wave was actually the guilty party. An anonymous group called the Inconspicuatum would then come forward and claim credit for the letters, while claiming Wave and Cobb were planning an assassination. Longfork and Erin enter a mutual defensive pact in response, citing either Cobb or a Wave citizen named Fives as the main head of Inconspicuatum. A second anonymous group has hit the server. Someone using the pen name of Numa is spreading poems around the peninsula. They allude to Fives being captured deep within the Erin castle known as Carmine Fell. Wave did not like this. A small militia was gathered and they traveled across the map. They gathered members from Cobb and attempted at Longfork where they were denied, as they marched towards Erin and Matthias Venthyr. In a surprise to everyone after these hostilities, Wave and Erin came to a peaceful conclusion while talking over Erin's castle walls. A third anonymous figure has hit the server. Loot has slowly started disappearing. From random barrels out in the open to well-guarded chests behind castle walls, nowhere on the peninsula seems safe. This phantom thief leaves only one calling card, a sign, thanking those robbed for their hospitality and leaving their name. Mysterious Traveler. Numa has beef with Inconspicuatum and calls them out on their twitter.com. Longfork announces the first Longfork Games, a gathering of athletes and knights from each nation to compete for who is the best. One Milo G. Edmund from Spebush famously describes entering the fog as a feeling of hot knives, and says it felt near sentient. It is at this point that the translations emerge for various runes across these ancient structures. Found within the volcano is a worrying account over the danger it holds and what it can do to an entire nation. The nations leading this research think about silencing the information to stop panic from spreading. They don't. A fourth anonymous— No more! Aaron is fed up with anonymous groups. Any information given by Numa, or the Inconspicuatum, or hell, the Mysterious Traveler, it's all hogwash unless they show their face and cite their sources like real people. The Longfork Games are held. It's an overwhelming victory for Wave. They score more than 3rd and 4th place combined. During the jousting event, Milo G. Edmund kills his opponent's horse. This enrages them. They challenge him to an honor duel, which he then swiftly wins and earns the title of Ballbuster. After the games, an exhibition match is held between Aaron Knight Eridoth Havlath and Aaron Smith Bumbo Strongfoot, with the intention of Bumbo showing off his state-of-the-art metal alloy he has dubbed Strongfoot Steel. The best knight in Aaron is swiftly defeated, earning himself a lifetime supply of the alloy. Near the end of G1, Cobb has named the peninsula. They called it Ichlanova, for the island. It's also kind of made up of the 2 Cobb leaders' names, and not every settler likes it. Within Wave, merriment is afoot, as Wolfram and Arena are getting married. In the midst of all this joy, somehow, a group of Wavian knights convince Scarlet to go to war. Against Aaron. Scarlet ends the wedding early, and Wolfram Weirencall is immediately enlisted. The poor guy didn't even get a honeymoon. Wave blamed Aaron for some of the anonymous letters, the disappearance of one of their citizens, and just general tomfoolery. Deja vu, Wave marches around Ichlanova, trying to enlist the help of both Cobb and Longfork. This time, neither nation wants to be involved. Wave wasn't quiet enough, though. Aaron got reports from their spies quickly to where they had time to fully prepare their army for a defense of their castle. The siege of Aaron began with Wave being surprise attacked by archers and knights over the walls. Matthias Venthyr even attempted to draw away some of Wave's forces with a distraction mission. He sent 2 men to burn Wave to the ground. Wave let them leave, and they went to burn their town to the ground. They continued to throw themselves at Carmine Fell to no avail. Eventually, Wave is able to breach the front gate, but when that happens, their organization falls apart. Aaron meticulously picks off the lone Wavians outside and dismantles the ramshackle attack. Some members of the force were able to retreat though, Wolfram included. The 2 men sent to burn Wave down took Arena as a prisoner and brought her back to Aaron. Wolfram comes back and begs for his beloved. He wants her to be free, and in exchange, he will pledge to never harm Aaron. Matthias Venthyr accepts their pleas, as well as pardoning Milex Kodomo for being reasonable and abandoning Wave after the first siege. After successfully dismantling Wave and claiming its land, the Duchy of Aaron is reborn anew as the Empire of Aaron. The tyrant King Scarlet fell in the battle. The burned and salted ruins of his nation shall never be settled again, with Aaron never wanting another nation to rise from the lands. And that's where G1 ends, and the first Progeny event. Following a generation, there's roughly 3 to 4 months of downtime in between events. A few weeks before the next event happening, timeskip development opens up for returning players. The cool thing about Progeny is that when you get in, you're in for 3 events, no need to reapply. And speaking of getting in, applications just opened up for G4 when this video is published. Check the link in the description for the Discord. During the timeskip between G1 and G2, we see the central 4 duchies of Aaron. They're founded in Frostmark, Fairvale, Vicentia, and Ember's Hollow. Shortly before G2, Milex Kodomo requests permission from Matthias Venthyr to create a new nation and settle in the ruins of Wave. He's informed about the barren lands, the charred remains, and a curse that's going around the land. He instead treks south of Cobb and settles Rainfall deep into the swamps. Around the same time, Cassian Kane settles Xandros a little bit north of where Rainfall is. In an oops all progenitors moment, Sebastian de Feltier guides a few of his colonists to Aaron to ask permission from Matthias Venthyr to settle. They were pointed north, and the Kingdom of Corallian is formed, in the coldest reaches of Ichlanova. Speaking of Ichlanova, Aaron does not like the name Cobb made for the peninsula. They have been using the name Mistvale for the past 20 years. Surely this won't be contentious and confusing in any Discord post ever. Matthias Venthyr discovers Corposis on his land. Corposis and his men offer to throw a feast and have his people, the Hands of Nenustus, pledge fealty to Aaron. Matthias agrees, but does not shake his dirty hand. That is the job of his jester, Matthew Corvid. Continuing their survey, Aaron sends 5 knights to Freedom's Edge to strong-arm them into vacillation. They are nestled between 2 Aaron towns and could be seen as a threat to national security otherwise. Freedom's Edge accepts the terms and is now a vassal state of Aaron. Aramis founds the Aaron research team, aka ART. Members include Eradoth Havlath, Lilla Norwood, Alwyn Vendel, Benton Brown, and Kieran Stradivar. Together with the great Bumbo Strongfoot, the town of Embers Hollow explodes in population. The Fairvale Fair is held in Fairvale, Aaron's breadbasket. At it, Aramis Planchette, son of Etienne Planchette, is given the title of Duke of Embers Hollow, and the Planchette bloodline is made noble by the decree of Matthias Venthier. In Spebush, a mushroom house erupts from the dirt. Upon further excavation, they discover maracas and hints pointing towards the frog statues nearby. Upon playing the maracas at the statues, a tunnel to an underwater village is discovered. Spebush, being Spebush, starts singing and generally partying in the abandoned village, which lures out a group of frog people who they befriend. Meet Progeny's 2 most infamous thieves, Ping and Pong. These guys are rascals with a penchant for kleptomania. They discovered the Longfork Museum full of artifacts from all across Mistvale, and they plan on stealing the entire display. They're caught almost immediately. But Longfork, being Longfork, care more about vibes than the chicanery. They feed Ping and Pong at their longhouse and offer them a job stealing artifacts for the museum instead of from it. Their first mission? Stealing the Aaron flag from the tallest tower in Frostmark. The 2 thieves are spotted, but not caught during their heist. Score. Their next heist? The Hearts of Cobb. They saunter on over to the nation of bookworms and begin begging for food in the streets. During their psyop, Longfork arrives to do the very same, quoting their munchies. Upon the groups colliding, Ping and Pong self-report by greeting the Longforkers with a friendly, "Hey, you're the guy who hired us to steal." Both parties left Cobb very shortly after. Infamous thief Corey Capone sets his sights on the Aaron Armory. He nicks 11 sets of armor. Ping and Pong are blamed for his theft. Longfork catches them to keep them safe in jail. But that doesn't last long, as Aaron gets them shortly after. Separating the 2 between Dragonstone and Embers Hollow, Thomas Dragon interrogates one, and Carolius Runemaker the other. Corallus Runemaker, well known for his loyalty to the Empire, was not kind to his prisoner. Ping, the one sent to Dragonstone, was able to weasel out of prison by promising to show Thomas Cobb's secret militarized bunker hidden under their orphanage. Once there, Ping knows more about how the bunker works, and they lock Thomas out of the bunker, which lets them escape. Now free from the north, Ping saunters on over to Embers to try to free Pong. Corallus Runemaker imprisons Ping during their failed rescue attempt. Corallus is the reason Progeny has rules on how you are allowed to treat prisoners. Bumbo Strongfoot is able to craft a forge so hot using the channels of flowing magma that he is able to shape the stars themselves. Recently, meteorites have fallen all over Mistvale, and they're harvested for a mysterious metal. Bumbo uses this to craft the legendary Sky Steel weapons. Nested within the volcano, however, is a cavern. Deep inside this cavern lies ancient text and a daunting altar. Aramis, after experiments done with Ping's blood as well as deciphering the ancient texts, learns that killing a human upon the altar will either stop the volcano from erupting entirely, or much more likely cause it to erupt. Aramis Kablooey Volcano. Kenneth Carrasco was there too, and a bunch of Longforkers, honestly. Aramis flees his terrorist act by going to the ruins of Wave. He's first found by Rainfall, who happened to be there reminiscing, which leads to a very tense confrontation when the Aaron Knights arrive to arrest Aramis. He is taken to be executed, with his last words being "Death comes," written out in his own blood on the chopping block. Bumbo Strongfoot succumbs to the volcanic fumes and dies. A funeral is then held outside the Church of Aaron, mourning one of their most prominent citizens. Moving on, Generation 3. This is the generation I actually played in, and our most recent one at the time of me uploading this video. The previously Longfork-associated research outpost on the southern tip of the peninsula, Coral Pier, becomes an independent research town. If you want to know, in-depth marine biological reports about how the fog affects fish, ask about Coral Pier in Discord, they're great. The Potts family form a commune called Poddington. The Potts are the large family of really just a lot of adopted children. The sweetest grandmother in the whole world, Molly Potts, is the matriarch. You know how I've been calling Mistvale a peninsula? Well, no, we didn't get the fog receding at the north to see if I'm right or not, but we did get the fog moving at the northeast to reveal an island. The Aquamarines, a contingent of Aaron soldiers focused on naval exploration and warfare, discovered it on day 2. They found old pages from journals of prominent figures like Milex Kodomo and Kenneth Carrasco that imply the island has been discovered a couple times, but by accident. The people who traveled there couldn't retain their memories as they leave, which is why it's been a mystery up until now. The Aquamarines, led by Helena Lehrman, test if this effect is still in place by leaving behind one of their members, Morgan Drake. As they sail off, they don't forget her. Lucky. Very, very lucky. Can you imagine? She would have been stranded and forgotten, and that would have been the least of her problems. As more and more parties discover the island, people start to realize it's not just a new landmass to explore, it's also a threat. On this island, there are deep cuts made into the mountainside, very similar to claw marks of a massive creature. There's burn patches littering the land, and the main player is the nest. Within this nest is a clutch of eggs, each the size of a man's head. Nearby is a den of magma, filled with gold and corpses of previous adventurers who weren't as lucky as the Aquamarines. But the island is mostly a secret for now. Xandros' princeling-turned leader Leighton Kane is having a birthday party! Matthias Venthyr attends along with many other prominent political figures. At the party, an assassin under the guise of the Ghost of Wave jumps down from a tower and stabs Matthias in an attempt to assassinate him. And he misses pretty much every swing, quickly downed by the Aaron Knights and taken to Dragonstone for questioning. It turns out that the would-be assassin is Arlo, a Coralite who is unhappy with Matthias' treatment of vassal states. Seemingly unaware of the great relations between the current king of Corallion, Sebastian de Feltier, and Aaron, he had an assassination plot to end the Aaron Emperor's tyranny. They buried Arlo alive. At the same time, another plan has been ruined. Arlo was actually in league with another upset patriot, one Mr. Eridoth Havlath, founding member of Aaron and Cinders. Eridoth had many people to be mad at: Aramis for causing the eruption that killed his family, Matthias for sentencing his best friend Aramis to death but not punishing Longfork, Kenneth Carrasco for goading Aramis into a dangerous experiment while Eridoth wasn't there to stop him. Eridoth and Arlo had a clear plan to kill Matthias and Kenneth at the same time, but Arlo got greedy and thought the party would be a better opportunity. Without telling Eridoth, his plans were now ruined, and his involvement was soon to be revealed since Arlo's in Dragonstone. Eridoth takes it into his own hands. On a simple walk through Aaron with his daughter, Kenneth Carrasco is attacked by Eridoth. Chased all the way to Fairvale, Kenneth is murdered in the middle of the street in front of his daughter and terrified citizens. Eridoth then leaves his manifesto and escapes into the mountains. He put Fairvale on the map. There's a Circle of Birch election for new leaders. Lots of people are running, namely Arthur Kettle, an uppity youngster from the Potts family, the Business Brothers, who are suspected of being Longfork spies, the winning candidate, James Booker, who's an ex-Aaronite and also a blacksmith who trained under the great Bumbo Strongfoot, got most of the votes. I wonder why. The Longfork Ball happens, causing the Fairvale anomaly to crash the server 20 times. You know this is a good event because we're 8 pages deep in my script and this is the first performance issue worth mentioning. Monty Planchette, Jujin Milano, and Zenith Havlath leave the party to explore Wave, encountering Zenith's on-the-run criminal father Eridoth at Monty's dead criminal father's grave. Speaking of Aramis, it is at this time that the ghost of Aramis is discovered in embers. No, literally. There is a translucent apparition of Aramis Planchette haunting embers and guarding the inner chamber, stopping anyone from making the same mistake he did. Not to be shown up by Longfork, Polyria hosts a ball the very next day. At said party, a corpse is discovered in the woods belonging to Nero Soliel, a prominent noble from Polyria. They were silenced by Alistair Kodomo, after Alistair let it slip that there was a plot on the Emperor's head. Also, Arthur Kettle died. Spica Forrester, a beloved male lady of Aaron, is discovered dead in Longfork by Taichi Pita. Wendell Ford is found dead shortly after, with a signed confession for the murder of Spica Forrester. This escalates Longfork-Aaron tensions. The Longfork games happen again! Yay! Spebush wins! Milex K. Kodomo requests for Matthias Venthyr to visit him at Rainfall Castle. When he arrives with a diplomatic procession, including his own family, he is told at the gate that he is only to bring 5 people. Against the better wishes of his court, Matthias trusts an old friend, and brings just his granddaughter, Malia Venthyr, and a few guards inside the keep. Eridoth Havlath is caught trying to scale the walls of Rainfall during their meeting. He is downed and brought to Xandros prison, much to the chagrin of every Aaronite present. Imperial Knights Monty Planchette and Lilla Norwood request to see the prisoner. While interrogating the prisoner, Leighton Kane orders Lilla Norwood to be downed, all her possessions taken, and thrown into the same cell as the prisoner. Monty Planchette is then forced out by the Knights of Xandros. While he spends his time trying to get Lilla freed and gambling with Xandros guards, Caspian Kane kicks him out. There is a war afoot. Why is there a war? During their meeting, Milex Kodomo murdered Matthias Venthyr due to their decades-long disagreements over the treatment of Wave. Rainfall Castle is then sieged, leading to the death of 2 Kodomos and no Aaronites. The entire world holds its breath as it appears war is on the horizon. All of Longfork and Cobb militarize and rush to the scene, citing the Quartic Pact, written by current Cobb leader Wolfram Rearencall, which includes every nation that isn't Aaron's vassal Freedom's Edge, and Aaron's main port city Vicentia. This may sound world-altering, but they just lied about who was part of it, and nothing came of it, so don't worry about it. Malia Venthyr, granddaughter of the now dead emperor, declares herself empress and begins diplomatic delegations. Marcos Venthyr, the crown prince and rightful heir, disputes her claim and also works on the diplomatic delegations. Hostage negotiations follow, with Aaron securing a deal with the other nation leaders to renounce their claims on the new island and make it a place dedicated to research, with no formal nation claims allowed. Why Leighton Kane thought this was something Aaron was doing, I do not know. Aaron got out with literally everything they wanted and gave up nothing that they had. They also got Milex as a prisoner to escort back to Aaron to receive a fair trial. This fair trial was being added to the Dragonstone corpse pile. If you are disappointed, stay tuned. They did this a lot this gen. Remember how 2 people are contending for the crown of Aaron? Welcome to the Aaron succession crisis! Alright, basic rundown. Matthias had a son named Marcos. Marcos had triplets named Malia, Mordred, and Maximilian. Nobody knows which of the 3 was born first, but Malia is much more politically inclined than her brothers and has been doing her father's duties for a while now, since he's a worthless alcoholic. Mordred and Maximilian don't care about the throne and support their sister in her ascension. Can you imagine how much of a headache this would be if there were 4 parties? The outline for succession was written by Matthias in the Venthyrian Code. Within it clearly states, next in line with no exceptions. Malia thinks there should be exceptions. The dukes agree that there should be exceptions. Marcos jumps out of a window in a drunken stupor before the verdict is even reached. Malia ascends to the throne. Now Empress Malia Venthyr has a lot on her plate. With the death of Spica Forrester from Longfork hands riling up her nation, the Marquis of Vicentia organizes a rebellion to march on Freedom's Edge. Never mind, he's marching on Dragonstone. Also, it's not much of a march since it's a single person. It's just him. And he's dead. That's another one to the Dragonstone corpse pile. Dominic, the Marquis that just got executed, was working with Helenia to rebel against Aaron. Helenia is tried in Dragonstone and... Oh, wait, they let her go. Nice. That's a win for the Aaron prison system. Sorry, corpse pile. She and a few other Aquamarines are offered homes in Fairvale, where they will be welcome. Aradoth turns himself in. Cory Capone also gets caught right after, completely stealing his thunder. Cory Capone is added to the Dragonstone corpse pile after Aegon Venthyr, brother to Marcos Venthyr, extrajudicially murders him. Aradoth, for all of his contributions to the Empire, gets a public execution. Winter's Giving! A celebration hosted by the lovely Molly Potts that is basically Progeny Christmas. Gifts are given and 2 weddings are hosted back to back. Also, Molly Potts and 2 of her children are horrifically murdered by the business brothers who then kill themselves by walking into the fog. Alistair Kodomo is finally caught for the murder of Nero Soliel and is executed! And Generation 3 is over. Congratulations, you're now fully caught up with the broad strokes of the entire story of Progeny so far, but this event contains multitudes. There's hundreds of players, each with their own stories, logging on each and every day to expand them. I could never hope to cover the intricacies of all of them in one video. If I got any information wrong, please, my proofs, comment below. If you like this video, like and subscribe. If you want to be part of Generation 4, applications are open now. Join the Discord linked in the description. I'm so excited to tell more stories because we can do them collaboratively.